I've had the opportunity to work with you in some centers, and you're one of the most thorough professionals that I've seen. So, a quick guide to new assessors. How do you prepare for an assessment center?
That's a tough one. It always helps to have domain knowledge. So if an MBA straight out of college wants to become an assessor, he can theoretically be a good assessor. But practically, whether that person will be able to deliver is a big question mark. So some domain knowledge, that means some corporate exposure, I would say, not domain knowledge, some corporate exposure, 8 to 10 years of corporate exposure. I say 8 to 10, maybe more, possibly. I don't know. It's one part. The other is, as they say in coaching, taking the coach position. So there is something called the assessor position. The assessor position doesn't pass judgment. She listens, she records, she observes, she records, she calibrates, and then evaluates. ORCE. She does not bring her own knowledge or her own intuitive judgment or her own intuitive environmental experience into what is being delivered. So if the candidate says no, you record no. If the candidate says yes, you record yes. His facial gestures may be different. You can record that the facial gestures are dissonant to what the person says. But the verbiage is yes or no. You need to record that. And then on a scale of 5 or scale of 10, whatever, depending on the definition of the competency, you give a rating to that competency, that behavior. And thereafter you do the evaluation, that is it relevant to the competency or not? So my struggle with many assessors, especially younger assessors, is that this guy seems good, he performed very well. Yeah, performed very well. Spoke a lot, certainly. But what are you really assessing? You're assessing team building. So did he listen? Did he invite others? Did he build on ideas? If the answer is no, then did he do well in that competency? That is the question.
So, as we are talking, and I am actually loving this conversation. So, one part in some assessment centers to drive, the robustness of the entire center and to ensure that it is, very fair and transparent, we do calibration. So, assessors do calibration. And sometimes I have seen, the whole situation getting very hot, because the assessor who may have viewed the candidate talks about a score, but probably when that person shares how the participant performed, other assessors may feel that this score is not justified for this performance, but the assessor doesn't take a shift in this position. So what is the role that you play in the calibration exercise, and how is it that you recommend people should show up there? Because sometimes I feel it becomes a little bit of, playing to the gallery, that if I've given this score, then it is the correct score. And somewhere the participants then...
Yeah. See, again, let's take one step back. The assessor is not the psychological owner of the process. The psychological owner of the process is the client. He or she has already defined the parameters and defined the competencies and enumerated the competencies. No, I may have 50 years of experience, out of which almost 30 years is an assessment, talent assessment. I may have knowledge of other centers, other companies, other definitions, other environments. But do I bring those into this current situation? I don't. Because for me, ethically and professionally, I have to stick to the model that my client has given me. So I may think that this competency has 50 shades of gray, but the client has indicated that yes, there are 50 shades of gray, but you will use shade number 25. However much you may disagree as an assessor, you stick to shade number 25. And that is where in the question that you asked, how do we keep assessors in line, is to continuously remind them that we are talking of shade number 25. We are not talking of shade number 2 or shade number 42. Now, did this person demonstrate shade number 25 as defined in the model by the client? For example, there may be an HR or a PR person or a corporate communication person whose language skills are very good normally. They may speak very fluently, but are they actually demonstrating communication skills? And I had this real life situation where one lady from HR, you know, if I may use the word hogged, she dominated in a conversation, in a case discussion. And the other assessors, particularly an assessor who was observing this lady, she has great communication skills, is what the observation was. And therefore, she was rating this person very high. I said, look, out of the 25 minutes, she spoke for 20 minutes. Did she give a chance to the other 4 or 5 participants? Particularly, she's an HR person. She should be creating a discussion, not hogging the discussion. So you're quite right. People bring in their intuitive judgments, their past experience, without understanding the ethicality of the thing, and that is to stick to the shade number 25, which has been specified by the client. And there is no other choice but to keep repeating this. Ultimately, if the assessor still insists, then you have to succumb to it, because at the end of the day, she's the one who observed.
Right.
But then as a sidebar, you do tell the client or you tell your principal consultant that this has happened.
Right.